no dollar amount given, but the city attorney's office is seeking restitution, penalties, and an injunction to stop the alleged practices. And more trucking companies operating at the port could be targeted by the city attorney's office. Well, turning now to technology, and we all know staying on the cutting edge does pose some challenges and questions. For one, how do we make democracy work in the digital age? Raja Goel has more on how the city is trying to get answers.
Yana, the one thing we all have in common is the use of technology in our lives. I'm at a conference where people from the public and private sector have gathered to discuss technology and democracy and what it means today and for our future. The Technology Democracy Conference, a day-long event, was recently held in downtown Los Angeles.
We've taken the moment to really take a look at how technology is reshaping our relationship with our democracy, and with a regional lens to see all of the work that's being done here locally, both in the public sector, in the city and the county, as well as the work that's being done in the private sector.
The conference helped explore how to navigate the growing number of sources while ensuring reliability.
I mean, we have a president who relies on a Twitter account in a way that we've never really seen before. So how do we ensure that the information that we're consuming, that is being put out into the ether, is accurate, is complete, and enhances a democratic process?
Panel discussions included media and technology, elections, civic tech, and virtual reality.
It's absolutely vital because what we have to do is to create transparency in local government, we have to create trust, and we have to create transformation. Technology, which is what this conference is about, has the incredible ability to take things that we've been doing for years and years and to change how we do it, to do it in a better way, to do it in a more efficient way, a more accountable way, hopefully a more cost-effective way.
Over 300 attendees were expected throughout the day.
I'm a data scientist, and I wanted to see what people are doing in the government tech sector. And LA is filled with a lot of interesting projects.
This is a chance to connect with a bunch of other people in Southern California to talk about what we're going to be facing.
And the one word that was mentioned many times, accountability. Just the beginning of many conversations as we continue to expand in the digital age. In downtown Los Angeles, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
The event was hosted by the nonprofit Coro Southern California, the Secretary of State's office, the LA City Controller, and Nation Builder. Pot is now legal in California, but not if you're driving. The LAPD wants to make that clear with some jolting reminders of the consequences. Gil Reyes has more from Valley Traffic Division in Panorama City. Gil.
Yes, Yana, just take a look at the example right behind me. With the sales of recreational marijuana now legal across California, the LAPD wants to send a message not only on the dangers of drinking and driving, but also the dangers of driving while high. And these messages are particularly targeted towards young people. The LAPD hopes this is a sobering reminder of what can happen when you mix alcohol and pot while driving. Police say the driver of this car was killed in a crash on Sherman Way late last year.
Somebody who's driving impaired is going to lose their concentration, their coordination.
Detective William Bustos warning drivers on National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week. The warning comes on the first month of legal marijuana sales in California. Now, it's too early to tell if legalizing cannabis will increase vehicle accidents locally, but we can show statistics from other parts of the country. Colorado, Oregon, and Washington State all legalized pot for recreational use a few years back. In comparison to neighboring states where pot is not legal, accident claims increased 14% in Colorado, 6% in Washington State, and also jumped 4% in Oregon. That's according to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety.
It's more prevalent now, especially with certain things like you can just call and get these drugs and that.
16-year-old Jasmine Walker, a recovering addict, warns young people of the consequences. LAPD officials say they arrest 870 young adults for impaired driving every year.
We're not only checking for alcohol, we're also checking for drugs. Anybody who is impaired is going to be stopped, they're going to be detained, and if they're under the influence, they will be arrested.
In Panorama City, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
And if you do survive, the total cost of the first DUI conviction can run upwards of $15,000. A big rehab project for the Coliseum as it undergoes a renovation. Ana Marcos has more on the historic building and its new face.
For nearly a century, the USC Coliseum has hosted some of LA's most mega events.
No other location in the world has hosted 3 U.S. presidents, 2 Super Bowls, and a World Series.
It holds memories and experience for all of us.
And now, part of the iconic building is about to go through a major facelift. The $270 million renovation will actually shrink the number of seats from 94,000 to 77,000, with the construction of luxury boxes and club suites.
It will further the transformation taking place right here in this community while bringing thousands of jobs.
And it gives me great pride to know that this landmark, built in 1923, is going to bring even more history and more pride.
And one more change is in the works in the name of one of the sponsors.
This new era for the Coliseum that will begin under a new name, United Airlines Memorial Coliseum.
And of course, the soon-to-be renovated landmark will have another claim to fame in 2028 when it hosts the Olympics. I'm Ana Marcos for LA This Week.
Well, preparing for emergencies like earthquakes can be a tedious, daunting task. So why not get friends together to lighten the load? Well, Gil Reyes reports on some Hollywood talents who are coming together to make emergency preparedness fun.
And we'll stand over here, like, wow, look at all that stuff.
Right, exactly. For these funny ladies, this is serious business, organizing emergency supplies in the event of an earthquake. This group preparation is led by actress and voiceover artist Karen Huey.
I emailed friends, probably about a dozen people, and I said, I haven't put together my emergency kit. Does anybody want to get together and do this? My thinking was to have my friends help motivate me to do it.
Karen and her friends all live near each other, a group of talented, mostly Asian American actresses that you may recognize from stage and screen, oftentimes in comedy roles.
So we don't always see each other socially outside of our work, but we all care about each other.
When you're by yourself and you're thinking about things like earthquakes, you're not inclined to be funny. But when you get a group of people together, everybody started making doomsday jokes, and it made it so much easier to deal with.
They turned what could have been a daunting task into laugh-out-loud luncheons and made purchases in bulk using Wirecutter. That's a New York Times blog that tests and recommends all sorts of items and also shows the most inexpensive places to buy them. The 7-gallon Aquatainer, for example, just $15 on Amazon.
And then we would decide what we wanted to order. And so we put a check, and then we'd tally up, we need to get 5 gas cans, and then who would order that.
Everyone bought the essentials, of course. First aid kits, also food and water to last at least a week. But they also customized their kits. Actress and playwright Jeannie Sakata spends a lot of time on the road. So she added a multi-purpose flashlight for her car in case she gets stuck inside.
This is something that can break through car windows to get someone out, or in case you have to get out of your car. It also has a blade right here for cutting your seatbelt.
Actress Frida Fo Shen wanted to make her emergency lanterns to look as camera-ready as she is.
It's very bright, and it's this ugly, blue-white color. So instead, you add theater gels, lighting gels, and you create, I know, this is an infomercial. It's really a great device. You create this gorgeous thing.
Atmosphere.
That makes your complexion
and it looks good.
Beautiful.
Friends can also test and practice using items together. Amy Hill recently bought a solar charger that appeared to be defective.
It doesn't do anything. And I thought, well, it's broken, so I sent it back. She got the same one, and she plugs it in. At the same time, it's in the sun. I hadn't even considered that as a possibility. So I went, oh, that's how you use it. So now I got to order it again because I'm an idiot.
Duct tape. Duct tape.
We know that from theater.
Purell.
Yes.
Yeah. Great buying in bulk.
Yes.
This is one of those items. I think they came like 12 and we just split it up among us.
Aquamira water purifier account. So if you've stored your water for a while, but you want to make sure that it's okay to drink, you drop one of these in.
You can view all the recommended items at thewirecutter.com.
And another benefit to making purchases with a group of friends, neighbors, basically a community, is that you can make purchases a lot cheaper than if you were to buy them by yourself.
The city's emergency management department supports these community efforts.
The power of neighbors coming together, helping neighbors. It's really important because during a disaster, a major disaster, chances are your neighbors will be your first responders.
And could also provide comic relief while preparing for the worst. I'm Gil Reyes.
The women say it only took a few lunches to organize and place their orders, and as you can tell, they had a really fun time doing it. Loyal Dodgers fans hit a home run when they got a chance to hang around their favorite players. Rasha Goel has more on the one-day celebration that put smiles on a lot of kids' faces.
Not hundreds, but thousands of Dodgers fans showed up to the 6th off-season Fan Fest at Dodger Stadium, a kickoff for the official 2018 Dodgers baseball season.
We've got a lot of interactive games for the kids. We have player and personality interviews, face painters, music, DJ. There's also special ticket opportunities.
And it looks like waiting in lines wasn't a problem. It was a free and family-friendly event.
We come here every year. It draws a lot of fans, and it really shows that the Dodgers really care about their fans.
And they do care. For Dodgers pitcher Kenley Jansen, an event like this one means a lot.
Just see our fans and see how close it is a motivation for me to get ready for another season.
I feel like it's such a long off season. It's a way to connect like halfway through the months, even though that Dodger season's going to start in about 2 months, 3 months.
For these loyal fans, opening day on March 29th probably couldn't come sooner. I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Nearly 35,000 fans attended the Dodgers Fan Fest at Dodger Stadium. New street improvements are coming to Sylmar. Metro passengers share their train stories, and Chinatown celebrates a new playground at Alpine Rec Center. All these stories in City Beat. A groundbreaking ceremony was held for a street widening and improvement project on North San Fernando Road between Astoria Street and Sayre Street in Sylmar. The project will widen the roadway from 25 feet to 32 feet and install a new curb, gutter, access ramps, and a sidewalk on the south side of North San Fernando Road to provide a safer corridor. Council District Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez said that her district has long been underserved in terms of the quality of the area's infrastructure. The Department of Public Works Bureau of Street Services will oversee the project.
We're also going to be creating these very important sidewalks and gutter systems that are going to help to create a local community environment that the community of Sylmar is long overdue and will all be proud of upon its conclusion.
Metro partnered with filmmaker Hervé Cohen to present Life Underground, an immersive art media installation and interactive web documentary at Los Angeles Union Station. The Metro Red Line is one of the 13 international subway systems featured in the exhibition. The temporary exhibit featured subway rider stories from across the globe.
Some of them just seem to be like what I'm doing right now, why I'm on this train right now and what's going on. And then some of them are kind of like their whole journey right up to that point. And they're all fascinating.
The Department of Recreation and Parks, along with Councilmember Gil Cedillo and community members, celebrated the grand opening of the Alpine Recreation Center's new playground. The 20-year-old playground was replaced by a newer and safer place to play. In a matter of 3 weeks, the apparatus for ages 5 to 12 was installed, and the sand was replaced with resilient surfacing. Officials say the Chinatown neighborhood will greatly benefit from this new feature, with the park serving nearly 10,000 residents and Casteller Elementary School located across the street. A dangerous intersection in El Sereno is about to become much safer as officials break ground on new street improvements. Rasha Goel has more on how the community came together for one common purpose.
It's all about safety. The Alhambra Avenue Safety Improvements Project will bring improvements along a 1.5-mile stretch on Alhambra Avenue that runs from Valley Boulevard to the Alhambra city limit. According to officials, it's been a dangerous route and the scene of several traffic collisions, including a hit-and-run in 2017, which took the life of a young mother.
Many of these streets are used by people in San Gabriel Valley and beyond to get to work in downtown and back. And many times people have forgotten that there's neighborhoods here. People live here. Families and children are walking around. And so when we make things safe for everyone in these corridors, it's helping us all.
Planned improvements include a new traffic signal light at Lowell Avenue, a new sidewalk adjacent to the El Sereno Arroyo Playground, and a future art wall welcoming all to the El Sereno community.
We discovered that there were plans to build a connector road bringing an off-ramp from the 710 freeway, so we founded Concerned Neighbors of El Sereno to protect our community. Since then, since Concerned Neighbors was formed, we stopped the connector road that would have brought 55,000 cars per day right here to this spot.
These improvements will make the community much more beautiful and safer for you to walk and enjoy your neighborhood.
The $1.2 million project has been the subject of ongoing discussions as El Sereno residents have long been plagued by cut-through traffic and the threat of the 710 freeway expansion. I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Construction is expected to continue through the end of May. Experience Chinese culture at the Golden Dragon Parade. Come see blacksmiths forging hot steel before your very eyes, and an African dance competition heats up on stage. All this in this week's Things to Do. In celebrating over 100 years of tradition, the Chinese Chamber of Commerce of Los Angeles presents the 119th annual Golden Dragon Parade. With over thousands of individuals lining the parade route and thousands viewing the telecast each year, this colorful celebration has become the premier cultural event in the Southern California Asian American community. The parade continues to be a rich and diverse experience for Angelenos of all ages and ethnicities. It takes place along North Broadway in Chinatown on Saturday, February 17th at 1 p.m. For more, visit LAGoldenDragonParade.com. The first annual Forge Festival calls to you. This family-friendly event will feature all kinds of fun things to do and see, as well as food and beverages. Come see blacksmiths forging hot steel live before your eyes. Witness copper transformed into objects of wonder and beauty. Let the kids forge clay at the Kids Clay Station. And to learn even more, stop by the Ask a Blacksmith station. The festival will have a little something for everyone. It all takes place Sunday, February 18th at the Audubon Center in Debs Park, located at 4700 North Griffin Avenue. African dance has many origins, which sets it apart from most other dance traditions in the world. And African Dance LA, in its second year of production, aims to be the largest African dance competition with a focus on the art of contemporary African dance. This event is in recognition of our youth's efforts to promote and preserve African culture through dance and other art forms. It's sponsored by Councilmember Curran Price Jr. of the 9th District and other community organizations and businesses. The competition takes place Saturday, February 17th from 4 to 8 p.m. at the California African American Museum, located at 600 State Drive. For more, visit caamuseum.org. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kane from all of us here at LA This Week. Thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityv.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Graffiti removal? Psst. Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Chatsworth, offering you a taste of New Orleans since 1986. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
Good morning, good morning. Shh. If everybody could please take their seats. Good morning. It is Wednesday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. I want to welcome you to City Hall. Your City Hall. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. The public is welcome. Mr. Clerk, we have a quorum. Would you please call a roll?
Blumenfield, Bono, Buscaino, Cedillo, Engler, Harris, Dawson, Weezer, Corretz, Corian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rodriguez, Rue, Wesson. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Cedillo moves. Mr. O'Farrell seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Rue moves, Ms. Martinez seconds. That brings us where?
Mr. President, there are requests to hold items 1 and 17 on the desk.
Okay, without objection.
Very good, sir. Items 1 through 6 are items noticed for public hearing.
Do we have cards on those items?
Item number 1, sir.
Okay, let's hold item 1. Let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Continue.
Mr. President, items 7 through 18 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, members, do we have any specials? All right, I don't see any, so why don't we prepare to vote on these items as well? Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Mr. Clerk, continue.
Items 19 through 24 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. Do you have cards on any of these items?
Cards on all items except for number 19, sir.
Okay, let's vote on 19, and we'll hold the other items. Let's, Mr. Buscaino.
I just want to congratulate Mr. Neil Guglielmo, who we just voted on item number 8, the selection of the general manager of the Los Angeles City Employee System. Neil, thank you for your leadership and commitment to our great city. And the reason why I want to recognize him because, you know, San Pedro's proud here. We're very proud of your accomplishment, and born and raised in my district. And he's surrounded with a lot of love and support by his family. So congratulations, Neil. We look forward to your service and serving alongside you and your team.
So congratulations. Let's give him a round of applause. Okay, Mr. Clerk, what item were we getting ready to vote on?
That was item 19, sir.
Okay, item 19 is before us. Item 19, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, that brings us where, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, item 25 is an item scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold it on the desk?
I think we will hold it for a few minutes right now. That brings us where?
Mr. President, that takes council to presentations, items called special, or general public comment for items not on council's agenda.
Thank you. Okay, before we get started, I'd like to recognize the council member from Council District 1, Mr. Cedillo, Gilbert Cedillo, for a very important introduction.
Mr. President, it appears that the Argentines and those from Uruguay agree with us that the best way to develop good relations is not by building walls or borders, but by building bridges. Loyola High School, one of the premier institutions in the city, located in my district, has for the last 10 years been celebrating a program, as they call it, an intercambio, an exchange program for students and teachers to build bridges across cross-cultural divide, developing understanding and goodwill through shared academic experiences, athletics, social service, and of course this is consistent with the values of the Jesuit colleges both in Argentina and Uruguay. We have with us today 15 exchange students who have been hosted here in Los Angeles for the last 3 weeks. With us are, of course, the hosts, Loyola High School. We're very proud of them. But also with us is Colegio del Salvador from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Colegio San Javier from Tacuarembó, Uruguay. Quiero decir bienvenidos a todos ustedes, jóvenes. Gracias por su presencia. Queremos aquí continuar a hacer puentes, no muros. Este es el valor que nosotros tenemos. Y quiero decir a ustedes felicidades por hoy y por su gran futuro. Bienvenido a todos ustedes y su familia y todos sus participantes. Thank you, sir.
Why don't we have them all stand up? Stand up.
Stand up, young men and women.
But Mr. Cedillo, I do want to also recognize that one of our important staff members is a graduate of Loyola High from your district and had an opportunity to network with some of the people here, and that's Justin, who's sitting to my right. So anyway, we have where's Officer Morales? Was she? There she is. She's one of our great LAPD officers, and I don't know, haven't had a chance to talk to her to find out how she got involved, but usually when there's something positive going on, she's involved. Let's give them one more round of applause.
Bravo.
Thank you all. Let's go, Cubbies. Okay, let's start with some public comment. Mr. Previn, Eric Previn, items 1, 20, 21, 22, 23, and general public comment. So, sergeants, if we could let Mr. Previn through. Mr. City Attorney, you wanted to make an announcement?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. An amending motion, I believe, is going to be posted and circulated soon regarding item 1. The amending motion will request that the ordinance attached to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee report be altered to replace the fee amount listed in the type of application table on page 25, section 19.06.A, second entry, which is the entry for coastal development permit for single-family residential dwelling with no exceptions, and replace the amount listed with the amount of $6,876. If the speakers want to address that, I wanted to note the change in advance.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Let's bring Mr. Previn forward.
Sure, I'll nibble on that. It's Eric Previn from Studio City. Does this not involve the cost recovery idea that Mr. Englander had to jack the $89 appeal fee up to over $8,000? Could you clarify that, sir? Is that part of the amendment? I know you mentioned the coastal fee, which is $6,000, but you have not posted that amendment anywhere during this Brown Act meeting, so it's impossible to glean what that amendment was made, why that amendment was made so late, as opposed to sharing it and making it public so that other stakeholders, constituents, community groups could access it. And by the way, the CEQA panel of attorneys that you put into effect last week you have not provided how much cost recovery you've been, or whatever you want to call it, where developers pay a $25,000 retainer and then continue to fund city litigations against community groups, which was estimated to be well over $1 million, possibly millions of dollars that the city has been saving in its effort to crush community groups who are opposed to projects. So I would just ask that you do a much better job of outreaching, because you haven't made those numbers available, and they've been requested by Ann Haley and Mike Fuhr and Leela Kapoor up in the city attorney's office, Mr. Falble. So I don't know what's going on there. It's worrisome, I would say. But anyway, I hope that the $89 fee remains the same, which would be great, so that folks could access the government without being sent bills from Rich Llewellyn. Now, 22 is the Junipero Serra Library, and I have to say thank you. Everybody loves a little funding for that kind of a thing. And item number 25, which I know you guys are already excited about appealing, evidently, but you shouldn't appeal because the guy was killed.
Mr. Previn,
right.
You don't have
yes,
item
I do,
25.
Well, in fact, item 25.
Mr. Previn, I gave you the items you can speak on.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to speak on those items, go ahead. If you want to speak on some that you cannot speak on, then you have to sit down.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, sir. You also have a maritime response equipment first responder little package that you put together for Mr. Englander. It's $300,000, and $200,000 of which goes for radios. So that made me wonder, is this related to the Motorola shenanigans that you guys continually look away from? Because what you've had is you've had a radio contract that was virtually not competitively bid. And then what resulted was Englander pointing to a county RFP that was in high protest, but he forgot to mention that as he was celebrating the contract for which his father, Uncle Harvey Englander, has a lobbying firm that represents Motorola. So with Mr. Berghoff, who is doing an outstanding job, I want to say. And by the way, they provide a public service by informing the council members of how to vote, so that then later they can come in with briefcases with the campaign contributions that
Stay
make
on the
everybody
item,
smile.
Mr. President. On the
Well,
item.
I mean, I think it's worth bringing up. What do you think?
Give him his 1 minute for general public comment.
Okay, thank you, sir. The 1 minute for general public comment, I would just like to thank David Rue for reaching out to the idea of redefining gravely disabled to include in some way a way to help people who are mentally ill and on the street. It's an interesting area. We have to be cautious about sticking a spike in the arm of people who may be crazy, because I know you think I'm crazy and I think you're crazy, and we don't want anybody saying that that's true. So what I would suggest, though, because I went to my local park and talked to some of the homeless people, was, you know, they confessed immediately that they were alcoholics. I couldn't believe it, but they said, yeah, we're drunks. That's what we do. And we live out here in the park, and we're safe, and we're not making fires, and we're not trying to do damage, but this is, you know, we're sad guys. We've had a heartbreaking series of things, and this is where we are. And so I was wondering if we should have some way to lure them into services by providing a kind of a happy hour, where we actually lure them out of the brush where you're worried about them starting fires into a bar-like setting where they could exchange notes with social services people.
Thank you. Okay, let's bring up Ms. McAllister. Ms. McAllister, you have items 21, 22, 24, and then your general public comment.
Yes, item number 24. Here you want to approve for personal services a contract with a Tamaki Consulting, and you want to pay them like this one person up to $60,000. I don't understand. This is in the 3rd District. Why are we paying other people when you have staff? See, that money could be going somewhere else. I've been seeing a lot of this lately, and I went online and looked at all of this, and it does not say what this person will be doing. It doesn't say she's going to be traveling, working this, that, nothing. We don't know what's going on. I'm wondering, I'm from Chicago, so I know about kickbacks. I'm seeing a lot of, I think that these little jobs you're giving people are nothing but kickbacks. This woman might get $30,000, you get the rest. Okay, number 22. This motion relative to amending a prior council for this library. Now, online, you didn't put the on this paper, you didn't put the address of the library. And you know, you guys, I love libraries. You didn't put the address, but for people who are listening here and online, the address of the library is 4255 South Olive Street. Now, that's in Council District 9, Current Price. And I have been over to Current Price's district and talked to some of the people. And they said that it's about 70% illegal alien now. So what I'm saying is everywhere you're putting things besides Hollywood and a few other communities, they're mostly illegal aliens. So what we're doing is we're giving all of these services. And I'm a computer programmer with a degree in computer science. You're giving them high technology training, how to code programs with the computer. That's high tech. You're supposed to be giving them all kinds of civic leadership training and things like that, which I'm going to be checking to make sure that they're getting, because I doubt if they're getting all of this. But why are they getting all of this? Because you're giving this place, TXT, the use of the library for $1 a year. $1 a year. Not $1 a year, they should be, and I'm sure they're probably getting funds from the city too. They better be supplying all of these services that they said. And remember, they're supplying them to illegal aliens. And you know I'm against that. Now, number 24. Here you want a motion to issue $20 million in bonds to acquire this project at 720 West Washington Boulevard. Now remember, this is Cedilio's district, 1st District, 99% illegal aliens. So you're going to give them all of this housing when you should be going to Council Member Herb Wesson's, which is, they have mostly blacks, I think, over in Leimert Park, Hollywood, and other areas that are not illegal alien. Everything else that you're doing, you're giving to illegal aliens. And we need President Trump to come in here and look at this, because we have a state of an emergency.
Okay, let's give her 1 minute.
My 1 minute comment is about the idea that you guys don't want citizenship, the citizenship question on the 2020 census. The citizenship question should be on the 2020 census. What you're afraid of, you're afraid that the 4 million illegal aliens in Los Angeles won't get a chance to be counted. And if they're afraid to fill it out and answer that question, are they citizens, the city won't get money. That's why you don't want them answering that question. But I went online and read from the U.S. Census Bureau, and they said if they don't answer that citizenship question, we will follow up, we will knock on their doors, we will find who's living in this city. And they will be shocked to know that out of 6 million people in Los Angeles, 4 million are illegal aliens. How do I know? 80% of the students in the schools in Los Angeles are the children of illegal alien Mexicans, Latino, and Asians.
Thank you. Okay, let's vote on items 20, 21, 23, and 24. If you'd please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Mr. Kokorian needs some guidance on item 25.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 25 is a post-verdict settlement of a case that has been heard by Budget and Finance, which recommends approval of the City Attorney's recommendations. Unless members have questions or concerns, we can do that in open session.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, would you like to read that?
Very good, sir. Item 25 is in the case entitled Dolores Ramirez versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $1.5 million in settlement.
Let's prepare to vote on that item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
Thirteen ayes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Buscaino, it's my understanding item 17 is of some interest to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for swiftly moving on this in your Rules Committee. Colleagues, this item before you focuses on the redefinition and redefining the term in the 5150 of gravely disabled. In the city alone, individuals with mental health suffer from a mental illness. 30% in our city of homeless individuals. There are homeless individuals in such dire need of health and or mental health care that their lives are in jeopardy. The current definition of gravely disabled, as defined by the state, is a condition in which a person, as a result of a mental health disorder, is unable to provide for his or her basic personal needs for food, clothing, or shelter. Now, the LA County Board of Supervisors, under the leadership of Supervisors Barger and Mark Ridley Thomas, have proposed a change, and this item before you is in support of the change of redefining what gravely disabled means, and we would move forward on supporting this by redefining it as a condition of which a person, as a result of a mental health disorder, is unable to provide for his or her basic personal needs of food, clothing, shelter, or medical treatment, where the lack or failure of such treatment results in substantial physical harm or death. And in the United States, colleagues, when someone is injured or hurt, we treat them, except for those suffering because of mental illness. We treat physical injuries if someone is in distress, but not mental illnesses. The current law prevents us from helping people, leaving them in the streets to suffer and die. People experiencing mental illness are only one segment of the homeless population, but often, as we know in our streets, are most visible. This is one step closer to help this segment of the homeless population. We have seen, I shared with you a video with our colleagues in the sheriff's deputies who dropped off a homeless individual clearly suffering from a mental illness. We cannot just shuffle people around who are experiencing mental illness. Instead of we need to address the mental illness because we know that the law prevents us from doing that. So with that, colleagues, I ask that you support this state change and send a message to Sacramento to move on it so we can help those who need it the most. I ask for an aye vote. We do have actually someone from Catherine Barger's office who is here. I'd like to call, if I can, Mr. President, her representative, Eric, I believe he wants to share a letter of support from Supervisor Barger.
Okay, Eric, if I could just get you to wait one moment. I want to recognize Mr. Harris Dawson. And then you can stay right there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just want to rise to thank Mr. Buscaino for bringing this to the attention of the LA City Council and Supervisors Ridley Thomas and Barger for broaching what can be a touchy and tough subject given the history of this country, but something that is absolutely necessary in the time that we live. I cannot tell you how many times we go on a walk or we visit an encampment and we encounter someone that is so sick that we know that they need to be hospitalized, and the authorities tell us, well, we can't do anything until they hurt themselves or they hurt someone else. It is an absolutely criminal way of dealing with people, both for the community, because our quality of life is compromised, but also for that individual, because essentially we take the position, oh, we're going to wait for you to damage yourself or damage someone else. It is absolutely inhumane, and I think the county policy moves us towards a more humane approach and a more workable approach in our city. So again, thank you, Mr. Buscaino, and thank you to the county.
Eric, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Council President Weston and Honorable Board, members of the City Council. My name is Eric Matos. I am the Health Deputy to Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger. I'm here on her behalf to thank Council Members Buscaino, Councilmember Rue, Councilmember Englander, Councilmember Huizar, Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson, and you, Honorable Council President, for bringing this forward. In 2017, 830 homeless individuals died on the streets of Los Angeles County. Many of these individuals, many of their deaths could have been prevented if they had access to medical treatment. With the growing number of people on the streets of Los Angeles County that suffer from a serious mental illness, it is important to consider the well-being of this population. While our homeless communities have a whole spectrum of issues, those suffering from some form of mental illness are most at risk of serious health detriments, falling victim to crime, and ultimately dying on our streets. But this issue goes beyond the homeless. There are families that are left with no options and no hope for helping their loved ones receive treatment and care that would ultimately save their lives. Under current state law, gravely disabled is defined as an individual's inability to provide for the basic human needs of food, clothing, and shelter. It's time for California to join 37 other states that consider medical treatment as a basic human need for those suffering from serious mental illness. While this will not be the answer to all of our challenges, it is a critical piece of the puzzle moving forward as it relates to mental health and the homelessness crisis. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors recently passed Supervisor Barger's motion, co-authored by Supervisor Ridley Thomas, to pursue county-sponsored legislation that would achieve this change in state law. As a result, Assembly members Miguel Santiago and Laura Friedman have joint authored and introduced Assembly Bill 1971, which would achieve this change. Supervisor Barger looks forward to working with all of you to address this issue regionally and locally, and we respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much. Give her my best. Mr. Bonin.
Hit that accidentally, sorry.
Okay. All right. All right, with that said, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Buscaino, you have a bunch of big fellas here, and we're very interested to see who these guys might be. They look a little bit like champions, but I'm gonna.
Yes, sir, Mr.
I'm
President.
gonna let you explain, but
the Narbonne High School city and state champions here, football champions. Give them a round of applause and a welcome to the John Ferraro Council Chambers. You know, we've been watching live, or not live, but maybe tape delay on NBC on the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang in Korea, South Korea. And we, if you look at the athletes, the United States swept all the snowboarding events. And two of our locals, Shaun White, Chloe Kim, brought home the gold on their respective events. But today we are here to celebrate some scholar athletes who brought the gold home to our great city, our Narbonne football gauchos. Give them another round of applause to recognize these scholar athletes They took home the City of Los Angeles and the Division 1A State of California championship. Last fall, the Gauchos won the LA City Section Championship by beating Crenshaw 48-7. I believe Mr. Marquise Harris and I, we should have done a bet on, like, I don't know, I'd like maybe eat at one of your restaurants. Okay, maybe next, anytime. They also went on to beat Pittsburgh High School from Northern California in the CIF championship game. After rallying, they were down 21 points, and they beat them by 28-21. I was telling the athletes here, I was glued to my TV watching on Fox Sports their amazing come-from-behind victory. And the Gauchos, get this, colleagues, the Gauchos have won the LA City Section Championship 4 times in the last 5 years, and the CIF State Championship twice in the last 4 years. Now, if that's not a dynasty, Mr. President, I don't know what is. But it's all due in large to the leadership of our coach here, Mr. Douglas, Coach Douglas, and his amazing team. Their successful season was a collective effort of the coaching staff and the school administration led by Principal Cabada, who's here, and of course these incredible scholar athletes before you. Victory is never easy. It's only possible through resiliency in the face of struggle and pain. And there's no better example of resiliency than that of 2 very special players on this team. Lance Manalulea-Hua, I know I butchered that. Sorry, Lance, I still love you. And Raymond Scott. Now, Lance and Raymond both lost parents last season, which could be the most difficult situation anyone can ever face. But despite their loss and with the support of the teammates before you and coaches, they persevered this season to become champions. I want to take a moment to dedicate this plaque that we're going to present to the city, from the city of Los Angeles to Narbonne High School in memory of the parents who they lost. And your championship victories are well-deserved, and I'm honored to represent you in Harbor City, and thank you for your strength. You've taught us so much. And this coach here before you, I would say the top coach in this high school football coach in the state of California, Manuel Douglas, who's taught these players the importance of faith, of family, of community, and communication not only within their sport and their team, but really bringing the character out of these young athletes, both on the field and what they do off the field in their community, is something that we want to honor you, Coach, for guiding these young men. So let's give Coach Manuel Douglas a round of applause and give him an opportunity to speak. Coach Douglas.
Thank you.
Welcome, Coach.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back. We've been very fortunate. We've been down here numerous times in the last 7 years or so. I want to make the point that it's not, yes, I am the head coach. I've been the head coach at Narbonne High School for 15 years. I've been a teacher as well. That same period of time, I have a special education classroom that I teach in, and I'm not the reason I'm the head coach, yes, and I get a lot of the credit, but I definitely get a lot of the criticism as well. But we've been very fortunate and blessed that we have a very strong administration. My athletic director, Kyla Berman, I need to thank her. We got a lot of very capable and conscientious coaches, and obviously we have some very good players. So overall, I'm very proud of the fact that not that we just won this year, that we've been very consistent over the last 10 years, actually, being in 9 of the last 10 city championships and winning 4 straight, and 7 out of the last 8, and the 2 state championships. That's great. Those are nice things. We expect them as a program. But I think what we're most proud about is that every year we're able to get help kids continue their playing careers in college. And this year we had a very good class. We had 8 kids who were able to accept athletic scholarships, meaning that they were strong players on the field, but beyond that, more importantly, they were strong students in the classroom. And that's an important thing. So the schools such as Rutgers University, USC, Oregon State, Oregon, Arizona State University, Southern Utah, and Dixie State, those are the schools that our kids are going to this year. We still have a few more, hopefully, we're getting that will be able to extend their careers after a couple more weeks of continuing to work with them, try to get them out. But again, thank you very much. We're very pleased to be here. Real quick, I want to introduce Julian Lewis. Julian, Julian has something to present to you.
All right, Julian, you're on.
Hi,
Welcome.
how y'all doing today?
We're great.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Narbonne football team
and our coaching staff. We appreciate you guys having us down here, and we would like to gift this helmet to the City Hall. All the varsity starters on the team signed this helmet, so we would like to gift this to the City Hall.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. I know. This can go a long way, Mr. Gregorian. With that, colleagues, I'd like to, representing the school district, thanks, Julie, for that. I'd like to recognize Dr. Chris Downing to say a few words on behalf of the school district. Mr. Downing.
Welcome, sir.
Good morning. We'd like to thank Councilmember Buscaino for arranging this honoring of the Narbonne Gauchos. I'm proud to say that in the over 100 years of the Los Angeles Unified School District, only 2 teams have won a state championship. That's the Narbonne High School football team in 2015 and the Narbonne High School football team in 2017. We are extremely proud of these young men, the leadership of Coach Douglas and his entire staff, also the leadership of Principal Kobata. So on behalf of Superintendent Vivian Etienne and the Los Angeles Unified School District Board of Education, we appreciate you bringing us here today. They have long been a treasure for the Los Angeles Unified School District, and we are happy that they are recognized today by the City of Los Angeles as a treasure as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Downing. And representing the school board member, Dr. Vladovic, help me welcome John Larson.
Good morning. First and foremost, we want to thank Councilmember Buscaino for helping put this presentation together, and to you, Mr. President, all the members of the council for all you do for the city of Los Angeles. You heard the stats. What an amazing team this is. So many city titles. We were here 2 years ago to recognize that this was the first LA City team in nearly a century to bring home a state title. And here we are again. There's so many things we could say about these athletes, but I think the statistic speaks for itself. We were watching the game, and it was pretty tough there that first half, 21-0. But I thought to myself, wait a minute, I've seen the script before. Where have I seen this? And I think you guys had your own 28-3 moment. Congratulations, you guys really pulled out. So we had a chance to honor you at our board meeting not too terribly long ago. But again, to the players, to the coaching staff of this amazing football team, we wish again to congratulate you on behalf of Los Angeles Unified School District. Congratulations to all of you. It's a heck of an achievement. Yeah. Carry this forward the rest of your lives.
That's right. Hear, hear. So the plaque. We've got the plaque here. On behalf of the City of Los Angeles, Council President Wesson, Mayor Garcetti, and all the City Council, we recognize the Narbonne High School 2017-18 varsity football team for their 2 amazing victories, bringing home not only the city championship, but the state championship. Congratulations. We love you. All right. Look at Betsy here. Right over here. Come together, guys. Come together. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
No, thank you, guys. So look, Coach, we'll see you next year.
Well, that's our plan. We'll see. I'm so busy.
Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like item 13 forthwith, please.
Without objection. Okay, could we have Mr. Wright come forward? Items 1, item 22, and I believe general public comment. Yes, sir.
Good morning, council members. Daniel Wright of the Law Office of Daniel Wright,
initially, I'd like to object to the posting of an amending motion without any opportunity to comprehend it or formulate useful public input. Number one on today's regular meeting agenda is consideration of a proposed amendment of the municipal code related to planning fees. Somehow, this city considers a land use or environmental appeal to be a service rendered by the city. On this basis, the CAO has proposed increasing appeal fees tens of thousands of dollars. But land use appeals are a fundamental governmental function, not a discretionary service of this council. In 1999, the voters changed the charter to create area planning commissions. Their very purpose is to hear quasi-judicial land use appeals. If appeal fees are raised out of reach of the average people and businesses in this city, area planning commissions will be at risk of having no business to conduct except rare appeals by developers. Public input often improves real estate projects, and this council is handsomely paid in part to hear them. Appeal fees in the city of South Pasadena are $50. That is a non-trivial amount, but it does support its citizens to be heard and to protect their interests. Will this city follow that example in the coming months? Time will tell. As to item number 22, I wanted to observe that this contract donates public property for $1. And I would encourage the city to look more closely at these giveaways to entities and to make sure there is true public interest. Here, there's a very valid purpose of the organization, but we've seen other examples of $1 giveaways that are questionable.
Okay, it's 1 minute.
General public comment. Daniel Wright on the behalf of the Law Office of Daniel Wright. Council members, I rise today to object to the pernicious practice embodied in Council Rule number 34 of city officials developing typewritten resolutions or motions to amend items of business prior to the posting of the regular or special meeting agenda for your meetings, and then withholding release of that amending resolution or motion until the item of business is called on the meeting agenda. There is only one purpose for this practice: to avoid transparency and opportunity for public knowledge of the changed action until seconds or minutes before the council votes to approve the item. If there is an intent of the City Council to amend proposed legislation or business, such written amendments ought to be released prior to committee consideration or at least prior to the posting of the meeting agenda so that the public can participate. This chamber ought to be a temple of democracy, not a mockery of democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Okay, members, let's vote. Mr. Clerk, on item 1, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And now we'll vote on item 22. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Mr. Krikorian?
Mr. President, can we send item number 1 forthwith, please?
No problem.
Thank you.
Forthwith on item 1. Mr. Walsh, come forward. General public comment. You put in cards on 2 items that we've already voted on, so you have general public comment.
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. Mr. Rue is back, and as we know, the paperwork accusing him of rape disappeared. The city attorney, the DA, the paperwork, but incidentally, if a white man calls a Korean a rapist, then the white man is worse than a rapist, because Mr. Rue is 100%. There's nothing wrong with Mr. Rue. He has absolutely no scum in his life, except for the woman he raped and threw in a car. And he's not going to say anything, and you got away with it. I'm telling you right now that we have a new owner of the LA Times. Not a black man, not a white man, an Asian man. And all you racist whites, you know who's taking over the
Thank
city?
you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you. Jessica Austin, Rachel Torres, general public comment. Cindy Bloom, come forward. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Jessica Austin, and I'm a member of the LA for Fair B&B Coalition, interested to protect affordable housing amidst the worst housing crisis in the city of Los Angeles that we've ever seen. We've introduced a policy to regulate short-term rentals. It was introduced June 2nd, 2015, and since then we have lost 7,794 units. That's 4,794 units. And every day we lose an additional 4.9 units. Every month we lose an additional 147 units. And this makes me really angry. I live in Sierra Madre. I work in downtown LA. I spend hours and hours and hours commuting. I lose so many moments with my kids that I can never get back. And this is something that we can fix. And I think it's up to you to make sure that we adopt this initiative. Thank you.
All right, and when I call your name, just please come get in line. So, was it Jonah Breslew, Rachel Torres, Cindy Bloom? It could be Jackie Gamble. Dave.
Good morning. My name's Rachel Torres. I live in the 10th District of South LA. I'm also a member of the LA for Fair B&B Coalition, interested to protect affordable housing amidst the worst housing crisis the city of Los Angeles has ever seen. As my colleague just mentioned, the policy was introduced on June 2nd, 2015, and since then we've lost 4,794 units. We continually lose about 5 units every single day. Every month we lose 147 housing units. Cities like San Francisco, New York, Nashville, New Orleans, Boston, and Toronto have all taken on this issue and have passed reasonable regulations to protect their housing stock. Los Angeles is typically a leader, and we need to be a leader on this issue. We need to move forward quickly with no more delays. Thank you.
Yes, identify yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Jonah Breslau. I live in near Palms and Pico Robertson, Councilmember Coruscant's district. I'm also a member of the LA for Fair B&B Coalition, interested in protecting affordable housing amidst the worst housing crisis the city of LA has ever seen. And as it's been mentioned, we need a policy to regulate short-term rentals. There was one introduced in 2015, and since then we've lost 4,794 units, almost 5,000 units. Every day we lose 4.9 units. Every month we lose 147 units. I'm lucky. I'm glad I have housing in West LA, but I've found an affordable place. But I would really love to move. A piece of the front of my building fell off, but the landlords have not even dealt with it for months. It was just lying on the grass. I know that I'm not alone in wishing that I could find affordable housing that was closer to where I work, and so we need to regulate.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Cindy Bloom from Shadow Hills. Emotion is a terrible thing to waste, and the motion I'm referring to is file number 16-1068 regarding the High-Speed Rail Authority. It was authored by Councilmember Krikorian and seconded by President Weston and Mitchell Farrell. We need your help because this motion has been stuck in committee for over a year and a half now, and it's a great motion. And we need it to go through. It opposes E2 and at-grade and above-ground routes for the high-speed train, which is going through our community. And we have local elected support from all our electeds except for our own city. And we need you to join us in a productive partnership to get this motion out of the committee and passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Then I'm looking for Dave DePinto.
Jackie Gamble, also of Shadow Hills, and I'd also like to speak on the same motion that Cindy spoke of.
Speak in the mic, ma'am.
This was proposed in 2016, and it's held our community hostage for the last 3 years. It's stuck in your city's council, their transportation committee, and it's just lying there. We're hoping for some sort of an action. Council Wesson, we are appealing to you to fulfill your message and your pledge you made to us in October 2016 for the CD7 area. SAFE is a community-based coalition that has unanimous community support, which alone should harbor support from the City Council. We do have strong federal, county, state, and school district elected officials in the Northeast San Fernando Valley supporting us. At the time this motion was created, our community had no council representation, but after 8 months...
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker. Everybody gets a minute. Next speaker. Michael Walslager, Teresa Kamel, Jacqueline Richardson. Did I call Kelly Decker? Was that Kelly? Yes, sir.
Hello, Council. My name is Michael Walschlager. I work with Caleb Havens. He was here yesterday to invite Councilmember Huizar and Mayor Garcetti to meet with the Skid Row Now in 2040 Coalition. This morning, Caleb embarked on his 46-day hunger strike to protest and draw attention to the needs of the Skid Row community. One of the demands of this community and the Skid Row Now in 2040 Coalition is for the city to use eminent domain to convert the multiple vacant buildings into affordable housing for Skid Row residents. Caleb has chained himself to one such of these buildings, the Old Salvation Army on 5th and Gladys, where he will remain and fast for the next 46 days. This is an urgent and dire issue that requires urgent action. I have the only keys to Caleb's chains. One is for Mayor Huizar, or Mayor Garcetti, and for Councilmember Huizar. The other one is with Steve Diaz. When they take a tour of Skid Row and meet with Caleb, they will be able to unlock him from his spot.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Please identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Kamel, and I'm also a Catholic worker along with Caleb Havens and Michael Walschlager. We're asking for reparations for the ongoing criminalization and deplorable living conditions of our city's unhoused residents. 1/5 of all arrests in the city consist of homeless people whose crimes aren't violent. Despite efforts to provide bathrooms and shower facilities on Skid Row, we're still over 100 units short of UN standards for refugee camps of equal populations. And while thousands sleep and attempt to survive on the streets, buildings downtown stay vacant. In solidarity with Caleb and our brothers and sisters on the streets, we will be vigiling in front of City Hall every Wednesday of Lent, demanding the city acknowledge its inadequate response to the homelessness crisis, and to meet with Steve Diaz of Skid Row Now and 2040, who, along with Skid Row residents and activists, has drafted a grassroots plan to address the needs faced by those who live on the street. Thank you.
Ms. Richardson.
Assuming that it's true that we will have quick flights, minute flights from all around the world, assuming that this is true, how will you secure jobs for American people from others in the world who will be demanding American jobs? And how will you provide IDs that cannot be copied at any copy machine, if this is true? And how will you secure the police department from people who have false backgrounds, false IDs from around the world, who will also demand police department jobs if they can get them? And how will you secure the police department from bribery and corruption, if this is true, from other countries from around the world? The last question is, how will you handle people who will want to make money taking these fast planes by selling food on the street? This food will probably be delicious and look good, and the people will not have licenses. How will you protect the American public and their jobs from these people?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Were there any other folk that are here today that submitted a card and I didn't call the name? Okay. I don't have a card for you, sir. Come and identify yourself. Did you submit a name in the back? I mean, you put it in a computer?
Yes, I did. It's just a problem. My name is William.
Come closer.
Right. William Island Scott Garland.
Your name is what?
William Ira Scott Wright. William Ira Scott Garrett.
Go ahead, sir.
I have the landlord responsibility here. So I want to inform, hello to the whole council room. So I have two statements to make. This city is on private land according to the Times. So when you made the statement that you were going to take this city and you will own Los Angeles, that's not correct. So I want to get that clarified. These transportation shelters will go in the ground starting here. It will bring finances to Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and another state, and to most states in Canada. So I'm informing the council now. That's why I stopped payment on the Federal Reserve Bank. So I'm telling you, no foreign sources is going to be in there. No finances is going to be involved, not even Tijuana. I'm letting you know this now. Come next month, we're starting the trauma vehicles and etc. That's it. You love your seat.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Clerk, that concludes general public comment. What is before this body?
Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Okay. They are posted, they are referred. Announcements, members, announcements. Any announcements? If all would please rise for adjourning motions. If all in the council chambers would please rise. I am looking to my left side, Mr. Marquise Harris Dawson.
Thank you
all
so much.
Please rise.
Thank you so much, Mr. President and members. Today I ask that we adjourn in the memory of Miss Shirley Ford. She spent so many years as a champion for public education for the children of Los Angeles. While there are countless advocates and parent advocates for young people and public education, Shirley Ford was instrumental in the beginning of the organization called the Parent Revolution and the launch of the Green Dot Schools organization here in Southern California. She fought so hard for her two young boys who were in public school that after they had matriculated through, she decided that she wanted to help other parents navigate the very, very tough prospect of getting a quality education for your children, particularly if you didn't have a lot of money to send them to a private school. She earned her bachelor's degree at the California University of Theology. She was a Pentecostal minister and very, very active in our local chapter of the National Council of Negro Women. We lost her about a week and a half ago. It came as a big shock to everybody, but the legacy that she has left, I think, is an example to everybody of how you can leave your space a little bit better than you found it.
Well said. Continuing to look to my left, I'll now look to my right. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to adjourn in memory of Hirsch Adele, a longtime practicing and prominent LA labor attorney who passed away last month surrounded by his family. Hirsch emigrated from Poland to the Bronx in the 1930s. And after attending UCLA Law School, he went on to found a law firm while raising his young family. I remember very distinctly when he ran for Congress in 1974 in a race that was notable because it was the first election of Henry Waxman, who went on to have a fairly successful 40-year career in Congress. And his campaign was run by Michael Berman, who was the resident genius of political consulting at the time. But Hirsch ran and gave him a good run and came a competitive second. The following year, he co-founded the firm, which is today, if I pronounce it right, Reich, Adele, Crost, and Civitan, which is recognized as one of Southern California's oldest and most well-respected labor law offices. And in a career that exceeded 50 years, Hirsch Adele handled almost every type of legal issue that can arise in labor and employment benefits law, including extensive litigation and appellate work, advice on regulatory compliance, representation of trustees in government audits and investigations, and as general counsel. He is survived by his wife and 3 sons, along with 6 grandchildren, and may he rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. I'm continuing to look to my right. I don't see any more adjourning motions to my right. Glance back to the left. With that said, members, this meeting is adjourned.